Hello, Fisher's Point. This is Dale Wayman, and I'm here to offer some devotions for you this week. If you remember last week, we talked a little bit about the pride that I was experiencing as a missionary in Ecuador, and how maybe that's even continued today, and how God continues to work on me. Here's another experience I had with pride that maybe might be helpful for you. We were on a work and witness trip in inner Jamaica. We were away from the major cities visiting the church where I was to give a brief talk for the service. So here in Jamaica, we were fortunate enough to be able to arrive early to attend Sunday school. And as we arrived, there were other people there, mostly Jamaicans. And unfortunately, the teacher seemed a bit intimidated. She was an older woman, probably in her 60s, was a pillar in the church, as well as the surrounding community. And it was obvious she was well respected for her leadership. As she moved to the front of the room, she made a little nest for herself with pillows and sat very regally, speaking to us. What she said next made me think maybe she felt intimidated, maybe not. But she said, "I have been teaching this class for many years, and I know the answers for the questions that you may have. But please don't interrupt. You can ask your questions at the end of the class when I'm through telling you God's truth." I was intrigued by her accent and her use of colloquialisms that were unfamiliar to me, but at times I got lost in what she said as she introduced her lesson, and the way that her body position kind of displayed a position or a person of authority. So now there's many ways what I'm telling you that this could go. This post is not about this Sunday school teacher and my probable misunderstanding of her possible pride, as I'm sure there are many things that I miss culturally. And this story is so rich in cultural, spiritual, psychological applications. And I enjoy studying cognitive anthropology and coupling it with my counseling and my attempts at representing Christ to others. And I try to understand people without looking through my own biases, my own lenses, my American male biases, white middle class biases. And so let me tell you what I'm saying. This post is about my pride, not her pride. That evening, as I lay in bed, swatting mosquitoes, feeling very uncomfortable in the sweltering humidity, and I was reflecting upon my experience that morning in Sunday school. And I got to thinking, she was a very proud woman. She had no formal college education, lives in a small village, teaching in a small church in a small island country. She has no reason to act so proud. Well, you know what? With that thought, I clearly heard in my head a reprimand from God that filled me with remorse over my own pride. I mean, who am I to judge this woman who's been teaching God's words for years? God clearly stated in Romans 2:3, "So when you, a mere man, pass judgment and yet do the same things, do you think that you will escape God's judgment?" I want to say that again. "So when you, a mere man, pass judgment and yet do the same things, you think that you will escape God's judgment?" So as I continued to listen to God that evening, I felt God's loving reproof for attitudes that I had been displaying. It really wasn't much of a struggle because God's Holy Spirit was on target and I needed correction. He was right. At times I become prideful, and God doesn't have to say much to remind me of how He has worked and He is working in my life. Just a simple recollection of that woman or my time in Jamaica usually gets me back on track and less protective. And I don't know if you heard what I just said. Makes me less protective. So these protective attitudes, these protectionist attitudes, at least in my opinion, represent a spiritual dysfunction. I believe God protects our reputation if we serve Him in humility. And that's where I want to be. I don't want to be proud. Let me leave you with this word from C.S. Lewis. Puts it much better than I do. And here's what he says. How is it that people who are obviously eaten up with pride can say they believe in God and appear to themselves very religious? I'm afraid it means they are worshiping an imaginary God. I got to say that one again, and I've posted this in my office. How is it that people who are obviously eaten up with pride can say they believe in God and appear to themselves very religious? I'm afraid it means they are worshiping an imaginary God. Anyway, thank you for letting me share this second story about how God's helping me to become more Christ-like, helping to rid me of pride. And I've got a third experience for you to share with you next week. So I hope this week has been going good for you. So long.